edition of On the Spot. I'm Edward Mungu, your host. Today we are joined by Dr. Job Amupanda, the activist in chief of the affirmative repositioning movement and presidential candidate for the 2024 elections. Now, Dr. Amupanda, perhaps just briefly, take us through the presidential candidature. How have you been received?
There are two ways of looking at things. So we always talk about clarity of purpose and clarity of objective. So if you are clear in terms of what you want to do, effectively it takes you to a place where it's not necessarily about how you are received. So you are very clear in terms of, we are very methodical. We know exactly when to do what, how to do it, and what to do. So we are, first of all, satisfied generally in terms of our set objectives. We had some interruption, but we managed to deal with some of those things. So firstly, we are clear as far as ourselves. We run our lives on the basis of what is called management by objectives. So we don't wake up in the morning and then you start thinking of what you're supposed to be doing. We already know before we go to bed what we're going to be doing the following day. If that's your lifestyle, if that's how you handle matters, you will not necessarily be surprised or wait for ventilation from outside. That's one aspect. But the second aspect is that one of the things that I didn't anticipate is how, there's not really a friend, a colleague who is outside the country. So his number was calling repeatedly. And I thought he scams me. And then I answered the phone, and this person was just saying, no, you are really making me emotional. You're really making me emotional about this. So we must really take this seriously. Our lives depend on it, so we need to take this thing seriously. And then they wrote down all the things that I must do and what I mustn't do, and things that I must change. And this is a person who left the country, and it actually made me sit back and reflect that it's not just about the decisions that I have taken and the decisions that we have taken as a movement. It also means something. When I was at the University of Namibia, there was a young man that we went to school with, and that young man went to study in the United States of America. Unfortunately, he was accused of things there as a student, and he was sentenced to prison. So I received a phone call, and then I had two call out the phone, so I could see it was written prison something. And then when I answered, then there was a voice that says, "You may now start speaking." Then he called, and then he started speaking, and he said, "Yo man, it's nitrogen." I mean, he's a typical Panyama guy, but he's been in jail maybe I think for about 7 years. And he's speaking with an American accent. I couldn't understand. So I started speaking Oshiwambo to validate and actually see whether it's him who's talking or somebody else. Then he said, "Yo man, I hear you running for president, I even heard that you're a mayor, man. Congrats, man. So we got this, we got to do it, man. We're tired of all these old people, man. Our country." And I'm thinking, this is a guy who's in jail, and he probably had learned a lot in that American prison system. And he's saying he's going to come back home, and after 7 years, and all he's thinking about is reaching out, probably speaking to prisoners of the head of the prison and the American Correctional Service so that he can speak to me and to convey his message about the presidency. And that the reception of Namibians who also left the country were in unfortunate circumstances. But I've also been having a lot of meetings with old people, and then one say, sometimes they were advising me about certain things that I must change. They would say, "Yeah, we know you are passionate about certain things, but where you are now, we are looking up to you, even us that are in our 70s. So you have to let certain things go. You have to do certain things." And at the same time, our youth are also saying, "Yeah, but one artist called me, hey, we want our songs, man, in the presidential cars. They apparently can't go in these cars, always playing Celine Dion and all. I don't know how they found out, But they say they also want local music, a state house, and those presidential cars and things like that. And it tells you that it is no longer just about what I thought, what I think, and what a movement thinks. It is also about the innermost hopes and aspirations of people from various backgrounds. And I've been internalizing all these messages in terms of how things should be. And particularly the exciting thing about the youth is not, it's not, they already transcended from the idea of election and being president. They are now saying, we must change this, we must change this. And I have to come back and say, guys, we are still there. Those processes, they are still trying to sabotage us. We still know that to them it's already done deal. They believe that this is their only last opportunity that they have. So it has been really overwhelming, the response.
But then there are those, of course, who say this is just too ambitious. It's just a dream that you perhaps would never realize. I know, for instance, one of the social commentators, the Garisses, wrote on her pages to say she can't wait to actually wake up from this dream in 2025. Yeah, when you read or when you hear such reactions, what do you make?
So remember, I'm a political scientist. So one of the disciplines that exists in political science is what is called political behavior. So you get to understand those ones. You could actually predict their responses. But look what is happening. The conversation now is a debate whether Job is going to be a good president or a bad president. Lee or whoever that person is, plus many others, are participating in the discussion. So let's celebrate the fact that they are participating in the discussion. It's a Champions League final between Real Madrid and maybe AC Milan. So whether you are on that team or that time, whatever the thing is, that the fact of the matter, then you can't change the fact that Real Madrid or AC Milan is on the final. So there is a national conversation about me taking over the country. Whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, the fact of the matter that you can't change is the fact that the conversation is taking place. 6 months ago, that conversation was not taking place. 6 months ago, people never thought it's possible. 6 months ago, they never had the situation. How can a 35-year-old young man just do? Because they believe that the dream is too big. But you mustn't blame them. It also speaks to our inadequacies and fears. People are just, oh no, it's just too big. It is too big, it's not possible. And they fear. Because if your dream doesn't scare you, then it's not a worthy dream. But I'm not surprised. My life has always been like that. People always doubted when I became a deputy head boy at school. And of course, I'm trying to, you can't compare being a head boy with the president of the country, but I'm trying to give you the technology of events. People doubted because it was the first time they had a grade 8 in the secondary school. It was just introduced. And I participated. It was what? In grade 8. It must have been maybe 13, 14, I don't know, maybe 15. And I apparently got the highest votes. People were just laughing when we went to the stage because I was very short. And they were saying, hey, look at that one. And ultimately they went. So the point of the matter is this. Gamecock or Edward in 2024, November next year, you will have to take a decision. From the president, from the head of intelligence, from everyone, you will have to take a decision. You will see my photo there. I can already predict that how the ballot is going to be arranged. I will be the first one there. Because nature and fate has already dictated. Yes, so I will already be there. So, regardless of what they think, they will have to. The first person that they are going to greet on the ballot is me. So they will have to greet me and negotiate with me there on the ballot. And it's going to be a huge battle in their mind. And from the look of things, Jacob might actually just vote for me. And I'm sure deep down he's also proud because I qualified his grandchild, So if I'm not too concerned about the views, people, let them participate. Let them believe it's a dream. But my life has always been like that. I'm always, we put up a billboard previously Kawandenge.
I'm referring into
Yes, yeah. I'm sure it was also in the New Era. Kawandenge was interviewed in my New Era and he was saying, yeah, it's a pipe dream, it's a good dream for you. Those words have been used before. But after some time, he was the one who was addressing press conferences on why I'm the best candidate for mayor after the fact. So Namibians are generally very good in participating in discourses. So let's not elevate necessarily the view that people have. Let them participate, let them be open. The fact of the matter is that they will have to see me on the ballot, they have to take a decision whether they vote or they don't vote. The fact of the matter is that we are participating and the youth are very excited about it. You know, they want to, somebody that they can relate to. And it's a simple look. We are government is sending people at 60. They're sending them to go home. In this place where we are, there used to be a man called Raja Munamaba. He was the editor. I think he must have been the first editor of New Era. He was a wonderful editor. He gave me the first opportunity to write an opinion. Before when I look at it, and I didn't want to hide the grammar, the style, and all those, but he gave me an opportunity to write, and he contributed. So he was really one of the best editors, but he reached 60. What did they do? They sent him to the farm. Why did they send him to the farm? He's 60. Okay? We all have our grandmothers there, who are in the villages. You know, Shombo, we call it that, and the marula, what is that thing? You have to cut the marula, is only truly done by old people. You have to cut the marula and get the things out where you make the marula oil and all that. That's what our grandmothers are doing. But some people don't want to go. Munamaba and others went to the farms in the villages. Yeah? Only at 60. Others in their 70s, they don't want to go. So by participating, we are also protesting as a generation, not just Job being president. And this is a mistake that they make. It's not just Job being president. Why most people are excited is because we are also saying, hey, you don't check us. All those people, they don't check us. When Buba says the youth will never run the country, of course they are saying he's misquoted and all those things. But his subconsciousness is communicating their underlying messaging that we are not participating. So, as a generation, as young people.
But it's not a fact that the youth are actually not participating if you look at the statistics.
Absolutely, because why are they not participating? You see, we spend a lot of time in our country, and that's how our country is also weak. We spend a lot of time describing that Edward guy, the one who's wearing specs, that Edward guy, the one who's wearing the suit, that Edward guy, the one, but we forget that Edward is born from a family. We forget that he has an upbringing. We forget that he has aspiration. So we spend a lot of time describing, but we don't spend a lot of time explaining. Yeah? So the youth, the young people in this country, they are described. They are drinking alcohol, they are not interested. I go in the main street and I sit there and some young person saw me and he said, hey, old man, I'm drinking, but don't just think I'm just a drunkard. My father doesn't like me. So he's drinking away his sorrows. But when you just describe a young person as drinking, you don't attempt to understand and explain. That's exactly what the problem is. Of course, we do acknowledge, we do accept that youth are not participating in politics. And that's why we are actually going up. We are not in this. I think in 2014 there were about 1.8 million eligible voters. In other words, people who are 18 and above. And we think that number is increasing. We are not targeting those people who are on the voters roll. We are hoping that we can get 500,000 new registered voters. That's why they are now getting excited. That's why we are communicating with them a year in advance before our participation. Because we are interested in making sure that those so-called young people that are not participating actually come in the register. And how are they coming to register? That's when you said that explaining why they are not participating. They are not participating is because this ECA only registers people to vote probably 6 months before. But we want everyone. Why are we paying those people 365 days? They must also be part-time. Why are we paying all those commissioners, all those employees? Why can't everyone go to ECM today and get his voters card? So it's because, some of those guys have been having their voters card from 1989. Yeah. So we want to go to court. The Electoral Act says continuous voters registration. Why can't people, you know that in this country, even without an ID, you can vote. That's how they get a lot of votes, and people come all the way from Angola to come in Namibia to vote. They give them voters card, even without a national ID. But it's easy. You're supposed to use the national identification system of Home Affairs. We're supposed to be voting only with our IDs in this country. Why are we not voting with ID? Because they're talking about knowledge-based economy, artificial, and all these things, artificial intelligence, information communication technology, and all these things. But they don't speak about IT on things that matter. We're supposed to be voting actually with our IDs. So that's what we're talking about. Yes, we do accept. We know that the youth are not participating. But we are also saying, why are they not participating? It's because of the system that is run by old people that advantages old people. So it's our responsibility. We take responsibility. We're going to be mobilizing 500,000 new voters. Now, whether you're going to vote for 70-year-old or 67-year-old or whatever it is, but at least our first priority to ensure this political participation. Yeah? Because we are young people, we are energetic, we are very happy about these things. And in fact, when we are saying it's not just about winning and we are going to win, but it's also about demonstrating, hey, we are tired of this thing. We are tired of us just being told, yeah, you future leaders of tomorrow. One of the notices that we have put up just next to last is saying, okay, since they say we are future leaders, the future is now arrived. Uma, Han, go.
No, yeah, we will get to the voter empathy aspect a little bit later on. But maybe with the billboards, of course, it has also raised some eyebrows. Because people are saying, no, but how is Job financing these billboards?
Absolutely.
Because even we as established political parties find it very difficult.
Yes.
It's very expensive. It's a very expensive exercise. So how are you managing this as a movement? When you get the function?
What we are actually glad is that, and this is, remember at the beginning of the interview, I informed you that there's been a lot of old people who have been giving me advice on what I must do and what I mustn't do and things like that. And one of the part of what we are not agreeing with those seniors, those old veterans. What we are not agreeing is this thing that they are saying, no, you are aggressive and things like that. I'm still working on it, but the fundamental disagreement is on this question of weaknesses. In general, I don't like weaknesses, I don't like weak people, I don't like weak system and things like that. It is weakness. It is a weakness for people to think when you say they are well established, they don't afford billboards. And in fact, I'm not going even to reduce myself to respond to that. It is an acknowledgement of strength. So if you are saying you are a well-established political party who has been in existence for 33 years of independence,
yeah, and parliament also, you are getting funding.
You are getting funds and
taxpayers.
All these billions. It's weakness. If people they were speculating to say that we are getting money from who, but even if on that version that I'm getting money from Genco, I'm getting money from Ramaphosa, I'm getting money from Zuma, it means his strength and ability to mobilize and get resources. So once we don't have any sleepless night about those things. We are proud of the fact that we are able to do things that shocks them. We are able to do things that raises eyebrows. Of course, I mean, it's not a cheap exercise. And one of the consequences of my life, the life that I've chosen, is choosing to be an organic intellectual. Gramsci speaks about two types of intellectual: the traditional intellectual and the organic intellectual. Now, the traditional intellectual you go to the classroom and you teach, and then you put on your tie, you look nice, and you wait for anyone to call you for a comment, and then you don't make the news, you interpret the news. But in organic, you don't just teach young people about democracy. You go out there and demonstrate how. So sometimes being an organic intellectual also means you go and get involved in these magic things. My colleagues are just wearing suits and they are appearing on TV and they look nice. And us we have to do the actual work. And people forget that I'm a professional. You know, out of the thing, you are just a politician. And I'm starting to actually accept that I'm a politician. I never looked at myself as a politician. politician until 2020 when I was elected. Because of also the definition of what a politician is and also what it has become. But one of the things that is lost in translation is that I had 10 years working experience. Yeah, I was a part-time lecturer, I became a quality assurance coordinator, I became a lecturer, I became a senior lecturer. Yeah, and I have been informed that my application for associate professor, I met all the requirements, but the politicians and their studios at the university are sitting on it. So people forget that I'm not poor, I'm employed. If I was a deputy dean, what would be a deputy dean in a corporate structure? A deputy dean would even be above the head of dean. I had head of dean that they were reporting to as a deputy dean. So that would be a general manager in a corporate setting. I have international activities that I do. I used to be a country expert for some surveys and all those things. I'm just talking about myself in terms of what is it that I can afford. And sometimes because we do all this up and down, people think we are poor. I'm not poor. Of course, I'm dealing with young people who are poor. But there are also people who, out of their goodwill, will also just say, Job, you guys must continue, this is $100. Kaveto, this is 200. People forget that. Out of the goodwill. Yeah, people who just want to support and contribute to us, things like that. But it is also out of our innovation. You know, we don't go around asking people to say, can you give us 20 Namibian dollars? I'll probably say, but Edward, there's this young man who needs help. Don't you have an extra phone that you are not using? So this young man would get a phone from Edward, but we didn't buy that phone. Yeah, so it's our method. I'm only sharing to put people at ease, but we are never ever going to be reduced to a situation where I say, oh, this is the amount of money that I have in my pocket. When I be disclosing what to do, until now, no one can tell. We are only told about 700 million of Sobo headquarters. 700 million. But look at Kalahari Holding, the books of Kalahari Holding that have been released. You don't find that the funding for that building. Where is the money going to come from? But is it something that must preoccupy our imagination? Probably yes. But because we are intellectually liberated as activists of the art movement, and as activists, we don't concern ourselves with all those things. So, for as long as people are not stealing, if you are, for as long as you are not stealing, for as long as you are not killing people in order for you to do all this, we are not too concerned with your ability to mobilize. It's like to hustle. Yeah? Young people speak about hustling, and there's even a slang word that we say, hustle pay. You come and say, go and hustle there and hustle there. Hustling is one of the modus operandi of young people, particularly in the corrupt and weak economy that is not assisting us in solving the problem that we have. Unfortunately, have to hustle. We hustle, and we are proud that our hustling is delivering in all those things. We need no more billboards. Maybe I must even use this opportunity to say, please give us more money. If there's anyone who wants to help us to have more billboards, please come forward and assist us with this whole process. But it speaks to this innovation that our young people must do. I'm never ever going to sit before a journalist or before a public address and somehow make it difficult for young people to go out there and hustle. Yeah, there's a distinction. We are fighting corruption. We don't want our young people to be corrupt. But there is nothing wrong with hustling and making sure. Otherwise, you're going to sit back there, and your child cannot go to school because you can't hustle. Look, it's like when our friends get married. Our friends get married, we even say, guys, let's go assist. Let's do whatever it is that we need to do. We must never forget the African principle of solidarity, African principle of working together as African spirit because it seems that you must only do things if you have money. We must celebrate when a person without money eventually gets married, because people put money together and they assist themselves so that they can also live a dignified life. So we have to be very careful. There's a thin line there.
Okay, before we go for a short break, maybe when you sit back, obviously, and reflect, what informs you? What is this problem of Namibia that informs you to say, no, in order to resolve this problem, I have to be helped?
So,
What is wrong with it?
well, I tried my level.
It's just briefly.
Yes, I tried my level best. We tried our level best. At one point, when I came back from South Africa, I've been a student in the University of Namibia. I left this country and got involved in international politics. I came back after I got my master's degree and went to establish a youth development club there in the village. Came back with the Swapo Youth League. Rubbed shoulders with people who felt that we need to contain this guy. So we tried our level best, and there is nothing that we haven't tested. We even tested the security of this country to an extent where, a 21-year-old George Kambala is being followed by intelligence in 2014, 2015. So we have tested everything. We even tried local authority. We tried activism, we tried protest action. Of course, we've been getting the results, but we actually discovered that if we are not careful, we are going to reach 50 just protesting. We are going to reach 70 just protesting. But nothing will happen. From one protest, you protest against this corruption, they just change the person that they wanted. You see, for example, I asked the minister not to appoint one of the corrupt persons that they wanted to appoint. I wrote to him on this Central Procurement Board. That was last year, 28 April. So what these guys did, when they realized that I had all the evidence, they just changed and they go to now the finance manager of Kalahari in the Swapo own company. So what these guys are going to do, they are going to manage you carefully. They just do this, they just do this, they just do this. Yeah, so let's wait when it's focused on this one, then they stay with it. When they focus on this one. So when you're focusing on the fish matter, then quickly the diamonds are going. When you're focusing on the diamond, then the uranium is going. You understand? So ultimately you reach a point and say, guys, this thing, the only way to do this is just to go there. Let me give you an example of how a soccer player, such as Didier Drogba, or which is a typical, not just Drogba, there's also another player who does it. It's Ronaldo for Portugal. Now, Ronaldo is a striker. In his day as a striker, he's not getting the balls to score. So what does he do? He asks to be replaced, then he sits on the bench and sits with the coach and start coaching. They say, this one, hey, give the ball like this, because he can't do it as a striker. So you reach a point to say that, man, at the best possible way, you need to have an overall view on what we need to do. When we don't sleep at night wanting to transform society, we realize that you can transform this society as president, because by a mere word, by a mere phone call, you can solve most of the problems that you are having. By a mere phone call, you can simply just ask, what is this thing that is going on? Can you please sort out this problem? You can direct a minister and say, this is what we need to do. Let's create a state-owned entity to do the following. Let's do this. Let's create employment. Just like Jacob can make a phone call and create 10,000 jobs in one day. He can do that. But can you do that as an activist? Can you do that as a councillor? Can you do it as a political scientist at the University of Namibia? You reach a certain point where you say, we also don't want to reach, I don't want to reach 60 protesting. No. I don't want my children to be protesting. I have 2 boys. I don't want my boys to be protesting over the same thing that I've been protesting about. That would be a biggest generational failure. That is also why, because people don't understand what we wanted to do and what we are about, they think we exist to protest. Yeah? They think we exist to protest. We don't exist. That protest is just one of the avenues. We don't want to be protesting forever. We want to be taking decisions and giving direction. How can you live your career? It's just protest. Or your career is to write letters. You must be able to command and control. Command and control. That's what we're not talking about in terms of the dictatorship, but to be able to command the direction of the economy. If we are saying we want to deal with a developmental state, what is a developmental state and how are we going to go about it? You cannot achieve it as a councillor. You cannot achieve it as a lecturer. You cannot achieve it as an activist. Of course, you will still remain that activist character, But you must, if I was in charge of this country, like nowadays, I'm just in charge of the country today, I would give clear command. Yeah, I'll give clear command in terms of, I will call the BS and say, you, the BS, this is what I want to do. I'll call all these multinational companies into one room and say, you, I want you to build a university in Oppo. What do you want in exchange for that? No, we want tax relief. Okay, fine, we can give it to you. You start 6 months already. I want you to start building a university in Oppo. You, I want you to create an agricultural university in Zambezi. You, I want, so you are able to command.
Why do you think this is not happening?
Because of the lack of inability. Because look, I mean, I always give an example of football. You see, if so I think it's today, Real Madrid is playing against is it today? Okay. Let me give an I think Man City is playing against some work team today or tomorrow.
The players.
Yes. So if Man City scores 6 goals and there are 5 minutes left, what do you think is Kevin De Bruyne going to do? You think he's going to run up and down? He won't. When there are only 5 minutes, it's called showtime. Our president is 83. Our speaker of parliament is 83. Our vice president is 83. Our minister of youth is 77. What do you think is happening? What do you think is when Genko wakes up every day, he's thinking about his grandchildren. He's probably thinking about what he must like in his week, the same with Buba, the same with Kajabi, the same with Chongarelo, the same with Memenetumo, the same thing with Tula, the same thing with all these old people. Yeah? So sometimes when we blame them, we forget that the equation is very simple. Why does government say that at 60 you must go home? Why do they say that? It's because of a scientific and biological determination that at 60 you start slowing down. If government by their own version have accepted that at 60 you start slowing down, what about 70? What about 80? Of course, the president is unable to command. That's why he's saying that he is not aware, he's not familiar that children are being taught under this. It's also possible because when he sits there as an 82-year-old, he thinks things are well. He dreams of freedom, and that's why you would see, and we're actually not doing good service to Genko. You see, when Genko is not reading a speech, when he's telling you about stories of how it was in New York, I have actually heard of a story that Genko used to be a hustler. And when they were SWAPO representatives there in the Americans, it's not that they had offices or everything was well. Apparently, they used to be in those UN corridors with Gorilla and others, just waiting for an ambassador to come up, and then they would speak to them. And they would hustle. Can you please support Namibia? Can you please give us scholarship? How about having a Genko who is just sitting in a relaxed environment and we interview him, not about government, not about corruption, just about how it was hustling in America. How was his involvement with the Black Panther and all those other things? There's a good side of Genko. But when we bother him with development, complex issues for an 83-year-old, very problematic. So I think we are having wrong players and we want to win. We are having a lot of Maguires as president. We are having a lot of Harry Maguires as vice president. We are having a lot of Harry Maguires as members of parliament. And we want to win the league. You cannot win the league with many Harry Maguires. You can only win it with players. So all these Maguires, the decision also, even in 2024, is also to check, are you voting for Gabriel Jesus, which we represent, or are you voting for Harry Maguire that represents all those guys who are 60 and above? So yes, we must blame them because they are sitting in those positions. But we must also take blame because what can you expect from Harry Maguire apart from an own goal?
Okay. So we are going for a short break. Coming jump on that immediately. Yes, welcome back to On the Spot. We are still with Job Amupanda here. Now, let me just take you to the city of Windhoek. Of course, there's been a lot of political bickering about this. And Much of the blame is also by critics about that has been apportioned to you individually. And some of them has even said you have proven that collectively as opposition parties, your inability to actually run the country because you're struggling to run the country. All of this is not new to you. But when you hear this discussion, what do you make of it? Because Amupanda was clear, but he failed to give us the only things that we see in the city of Windhoek are those bicycle codes and all these other things. What have you failed? Have you failed as well?
So that's the political education and political literacy in our country. It's a challenge. So it tells me generally, when we just hear those things, it tells me that we need to do a lot of work. We need to create a lot of understanding. Now there are two things that on that thing, whenever people are discussing about city of Windhoek, there are those critics of Job, and those critics of Job will never change. They've been there. In fact, if I was a degree, some people will have a PhD in Job Amupanda affairs. 2011, 2012, a person is supposed to job. They make their careers out of job. 2012, 13, 14, 15, that's a 4-year bachelor's degree. But they don't stop there. You would say they've gotten a bachelor's degree in Job Amupanda affairs. But they continue again 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17. Still Job Amupanda affairs. Let's assume maybe they don't do well in their thesis on Job Amupanda affairs. They take 3 years until 17. 3 years and they get a master's degree. Then they take another 5 years. So you see, you have a person in there. They have not done anything. They are only known to be Job Amupanda critics. How do you expect those people to argue differently as far as the city of Windhoek is concerned? So to those, we don't respond. We don't pay much attention to them. And in fact, it's also the advice that I'm getting from these elders that are speaking to me and say, man, don't prove these critics right all the time, because it's their problem. Immediately when you address that, they will find something else. Immediately when you address that, tomorrow they are saying, yeah, what type of president that is wearing a cap? They say all those things. But some youth also say, oh, it's a president who's wearing a cap just like this, so there's nothing wrong with it. You understand? So they will always find something. Next time they will say, what type of president who doesn't wear socks? See? What type of president that wears Shiloko leather shoes and things like that. So they will always have critics, so let's not concern ourselves with them. But that does not mean that we are not looking at the issues that they are raising. But let's also look at those innocent people who might have believed what the critics are saying. Now, let's deal with one of the things when you hear opposition parties. Now, after 2020 election, how do you call other parties that are ruling opposition parties? It's a failure of imagination of the journalists. It's a failure of imagination of our journalists. But the journalists are also just, I'll come. But they are also just a reflection of our society. I understand perfectly what you're saying. Even when there was a progressive forces and SWAPO was in opposition, people were saying the opposition led council. There is no opposition led council. Yeah, so generally what we have this permanent place that even when you are ruling, opposition comes from this British tradition of British parliamentary, because you are sitting in opposition, yeah, like opposite the other guys. The prime minister is sitting on the other side, you are sitting, so you are sitting in opposition to that one. But if you become a prime minister, you say opposition for them to immediately when you are ruling, you are no longer opposition. Naturally, in the city of Windhoek, during that period of our time, SWAPO was actually in opposition. Yeah, but no one ever referred to them as opposition. But there is, let's now deal with the specific issues. We had a list of 15 councillors. Of course, we only got 2 councillors, so quite a number of reasons. I mean, there were 50,000 people that came to vote. And out of those 50,000, out of 300,000, I think it's about 150 eligible voters in Windhoek. Only 50,000 actually turned up to vote. Eligible, and actually the one that turned up 50,000. Some of them, because of systemic problem, on the election day, they were calling, yeah, we want to vote for you, but they say we can't vote. because of this thing that you must have water bill. So majority of our people couldn't vote for us because of those things. Now, people know very well. These critics, they know very well that we only have two countries. They know very well when sitting in the coalition, people decided that these guys must be removed around all those things. So we knew the systematic limitation. But you ask a specific question, did we fail? The answer is no, we didn't fail. Did I fail? The answer is no, I didn't fail. Could I have done better? Absolutely. That's my biggest regret, to say if there was a way how we can just implement the ideas that we wanted to do. For the first time, and it's inconvenient for these people. For 33 years they are running the city of Windsor. 33 years. They've been on permanent debt. They never paid, for instance, manpower. We made sure we told them, no, cut off everybody, whether you are the police or state house. Remember our interaction that we had with the Angari? Because we told them the following week we were actually scared the state house to be cut off. The officials were telling us, thank you very much. In the past, we always wanted to do that, but we were always, the councillor will always be called by their parties and all those things. That's what would always happen, and then we'll never be able to. We cut off the water. We have a letter that is written to me by the MD of Nampower. Usually these CEOs communicate with one another, but he decided to write to me and say, thank you very much. We cleared the debt of Nampower, we cleared the debt of Nampower. Yeah? So because we were on a path to create a clean audit. Yeah? We wanted to get a clean audit. Because we're always getting this unqualified audit. That's why we were encouraging our accountants to work very hard in terms of that. But also you would remember in 2015 we went there. We went to Korea Hub Dam to clear the land. As we are speaking, that land is finished. We are building, the city by itself is building their own houses. Minister the other day just launched one of the houses. We started saying, but why are we getting this many land? Under our leadership, the city started building the houses by themselves without the middleman. Actually doing the construction ourselves. Yeah? Through those specific programs that we cancel old houses, we handed over 8. And we are going to build those cheap houses also in Zimbabwe and other places where we needed to be able to do this thing. So, and there are many others, but we also uplifted the spirit. People are interested more on the city of Window. But unfortunately, I couldn't stay longer, and people realized that, and in fact, they say that no, this guy is apparently outshining, was promoting himself and things like that. They decided that it was on record that we want this guy out. They were not saying they want this guy out because he had failed. The failure, the so-called failure, is a narrative that came afterwards. They say, in one party, for instance, Itula was saying, we want Job to be removed because he shares things on social media. Yeah? And all those other things, and it couldn't work. Yeah? Because, and others were saying, no, we want Job to be removed because they are always just talking about is him sharing, but we are also part, they don't see themselves as part to those things. But one of the things that I have accepted as my own failure is that I would have probably have started very slowly. You know, and because I scared people and I united the enemies, and they created this common enemy that must be removed. So maybe if I would have been very slow in terms of, because for example, we were believing that we must build municipality-owned enterprises. You know, we have companies, everything is just on tender, including the invoices. Usually we have a tender for invoices. Just these invoices that you get as a tender involved. Skip containers, they are tender involved. What. So we're also saying that it is also possible for us to get the big youth from BTC with the city-owned company, and then we start maybe producing our own skip containers and all those things. But the VUMA, the aggressiveness, the fast pace in which I wanted to do things also became part of the problem. That's the only regret that I had to say. Perhaps if I would have just moved slow and moved with them, and maybe things would have been better, the progressive forces would still remain and things like that.
But looking at the I would say, the animal that is the city of Windhoek, with all the historical issues, with all its debt, the fact that I mean, the salaries are just, it take up a big chunk of the institutions' money. The institutions are priced on what is from month to month on a $200 million loan, all these other things. How big can this really, from an administrative, political, whatever level you look at, what is what's the experience?
But part of the problem with the city of Windhoek is that it's a politicization of the bureaucracy. Sitting in those positions are politicians, not bureaucrats. The person is supposed to be a lawyer, but he's a politician. You're asking for legal advice, the response that you get from a lawyer, you get a political response. The person is supposed to be a finance person, you ask for an answer on finances, you get a political response from them. Yeah? So that also, there could be very weak communication machinery because the bureaucracy has been politicized. For example, just look at these things about the wage bill of the city. The threshold that has been created, even by government, is to say your salaries must be 35% of your budget. The salary of city of Windhoek is never existed. It never exceeded 35%. It's below 35%. You always hear about these salaries, what, month to month. Which institution? We count the figures. There was this attempt. I actually thought this guy was a CA, this IPC councillor. And I technically have to verify. It seems that it's just an accountant. It's not a chartered accountant. Yeah, I have to verify. So there was some noise that press conference that they spoke about the city finances and things like that. But we are talking about liquidity. When people owe the city, you owe the city in 30 months, you owe the city in 60 months, you owe the city in 90 days. How much is it that was owed? When we came, that figure, we found it was 1.3 billion in terms of what the residents owed. Through the intervention that we did, and we actually even implemented a program of people giving them time to settle 6-month period and things like that, we actually reduced it to about 900 billion. As we speak now, that amount is probably going back to about 1.4 billion and things like that. So the biggest problem is the politicization of the bureaucracy. So the administration is just full of politicians that are behaving and pretending to be officials, and that's one of the biggest problems. So one of the first things that I wanted to do is to deal with that. To say, you are the official, stick to your work as an official. The communication of the city is very weak. Stick to your work and just do things that are supposed to be done. But because these people are politicians and they are always dancing, drinking with politicians now and then, but if you are an SE, but your manager is maybe a girlfriend to a politician or they are friends with a politician or sleeping with this politician or doing whatever it is, that chaos, the politicization of the city bureaucracy is one of the biggest problems. But of course, at one point, I wanted to go aggressively and face those things. I used to, towards the end of my term, I engaged with staff members from various categories, starting from the one that are 55 to 60 until I came to the one that are from 21 up. So listening to them and engaging with them to actually see what is actually going to understand the administrative machinery. So I actually confirm my view that when I'm saying that the city administration has been politicized, it is more political than professional. That's exactly what I found. But they have also conducted the cultural survey that also indicated some of those things. So it is that part of the problem. But the other problem has to do with the local authority itself. I don't believe that this government, how weak it is, how can you have councillors that are elected every year? Even if I'm not a councillor anymore, when I run this country, I'm never going to allow a situation, because look, you are elected, you only govern for 6 months, in the 7th month, they already start fighting you, because they are already thinking and preparing themselves for the next election. This chaos is brought by the Local Authority Act. Because we are having a new management committee every year, new council, new deputy mayor. So everyone, in fact, the city of Windhoek people are not talking about capacity. They are saying, I also want an opportunity to be mayor. I can guarantee you over the next 5 years, each year you are going to have a new mayor. In a few months' time, we'll have another mayor, the fourth mayor. That will be different. Because this thing of rotation, that culture is created by the local authority. So I'm personally pushing for the amendment of the local authority act to ensure that there must be stability. If you are voting for mayor, you are voting for mayor for your term. We shouldn't have, there is provision to remove a mayor if you are not happy with the mayor, but to vote for a mayor just for the sake of it is very problematic. But also, part of the problem, you must also ask the type of skill set. You are working there, it's very difficult to explain concept. Every time you go to a council meeting, you are just explaining things. You are explaining concept. We must have a minimum requirement. Governments will have free and compulsory primary education. Government pays for it. Government has also now extended it to secondary education. What excuse would you have, a young person born after 2000? What excuse do you have to be a councillor and you don't have grade 12? So we're not talking about ourselves here. We must not be championing for our jackets. I'm going to make sure, whether now or when I take over the country or whatever happens, we must actually have a minimum criteria for councillors. Of course, probably it must be extended to parliament. In Kenya, for example, you cannot be a member of parliament without a diploma, without a university degree. So we must have those minimum requirements. So we should, and the gap in understanding. Yeah. So, and we are also saying, we took a resolution in the city of Windhoek when I was mayor. I asked my officials to go to LISA. There's a program called Bachelor of Art in Political Leadership and Citizenship. And we even committed the city to pay for the current councillors on that program. Because so that we need to have a base, we need to have a balance to say that, look, it must be, we can't continue, we can't run a country like that, where people think that they can just come, council is regarded as employment. No. That's also part of the problem. It's not just Windhoek, it's everywhere. In fact, the situation in Windhoek is even better.
Okay, let's move to the affirmative preposition movement. Yeah. In what state is the movement? You guys are now formalizing to actually, you are in the process of just becoming a fully fledged political party, if you put it that way. But in what state is the movement? I mean, there was this fallout between you and Kenya Uyoma and others from Paul. In what state?
The AR movement is a dynamic movement, and I think to better understand the AR movement, we want to look at its trajectory, its history. It has been a loose formation that is issue driven, and it has core principles of what we wanted to achieve. And that's, and in fact, the reason why we didn't have a constitution, the reason why we were not formalized, and particularly the small circle of us that we're discussing, is these things of fighting for position, and these things of creating celebrities and things like that. It was actually deliberate by people. It was by consensus. We agreed that we shouldn't have a constitution, we shouldn't have all these things. Let's just fight for the specific issues and then go. But with the passage of time, when the movement keep growing, we start attracting all sorts of people. So the decision to go through the REEF program, the reorganization, institutionalization, and formalization, is a sad and unfortunate realization that our consensus, our agreement that we must continue to exist as a non-codified movement, pursuing issues as they come, guided by our principle, also became a challenge. So because people just wake up and they express right-wing views, they express capitalist views in the name of the movement. They just wake up and they put on a red star as a sign of resistance. But you do all sort of things and things like that. So the REEF program was a resolution that we decided that, guys, we need to be able to do this because of all these things that we do. Now, generally over the years, we have produced dynamic young people. And one of the things that people talk about, the fallout and all those things, is that they forget that AI is actually a victim of its creation. And that's what people also forget, that these things that are happening, we became a victim of our own dynamic creation. We wanted to produce activists that are resolute, activists that can articulate themselves. So even if a person is there insulting Job or insulting whoever it is, but look at the manner how they are doing it. Look at him. Sometimes I sit in my mouth and I say, they are university of what? Forget about the content, forget about the criticism, forget about the agenda setting. But we say, even among those so-called people who are criticizing us, our training, our orientation, our articulation of the issues, look at the vocabulary when you listen to them. They still use the AI lexicon, they still use the AI grammar, they use the AI language, the AI vocabulary. So we have always been this dynamic organization, and because this is probably this latest episode is the episode that found us on stage. You have a mayor, you have all those other things that are happening, but we have heard all these things that have been happening. We had a guy in the South who wrote letters to say, no, it's no longer the scale of what that guy was writing. What is this boy? It's now they used it. Swap with you. The scale of what he was writing and funny accusation is exactly the same, probably more. But the difference is that the AI was not on stage. So like you see when you're on stage and you are singing as an artist, and somebody shout and somebody do all those things, the whole attention will be on that artist. So AI is very healthy. AI is able, AI is actually fit and proper. I think at one point we were obese as the AI movement. And just relax today, not doing exercises. You know, sometimes you must be challenged in order for you to shape up properly. We are in good spirit. And in fact, one of the good things that we're actually happy about, we actually discovered internal sabotage. For example, we had the RU program, for instance, the Revolutionary Union. We were just there attacking the Labour Commissioner as delaying our progress and all those things. But in the meantime, there were some people who were actually just sabotaging on the inside. Our experience from that whole fiasco was that, okay, we decided to take all our programs underground. So we used to even announce plans. Then we would go to a press conference, we would be very excited about it. This is what we are going to do. We have an August 26th program. This is what we are going to be doing, and this and this and this. And tomorrow we are going to be exposing this and this and this. But in the meantime, we also have elements that are just trading our information. So when we announce in advance, those other people whom we are speaking about, they just call these loose ones that we have, and they say, man, what are those guys saying? And they start trading information. So we learned and we just took all our program underground. And our underground program has actually been succeeding. Our activists in Punene, our activists in Harga, doing wonderful things that are not in the newspaper, because we actually realized that we became victims of our own dynamic abilities. And the good lesson and the coping mechanism was to take all our programs underground. So we are very excited in terms of the journey that we are going, and there is no people who are sabotaging our activities. We are confident about ourselves, and one of the most difficult things is that we created this impression to our activists that everything else that we must go to the press conference. Now, when we don't go to the press conference, our activists, some of them started saying, no, we are no longer active, we are wild, we are docile, we are doing all those things. So the only challenge was to make our activists understand and realize that no, the strategies have changed temporarily in order for us to achieve our objective. So we are no longer attacking each other with the Labour Commissioner. Very soon we are going to receive good news as far as the Revolutionary Union is going to concern. So what do we need? We need a proper registration of RU, for instance, in order for us to serve the workers. Because the workers are already organized, they are ready and waiting, including the workers of New Era. They are ready and waiting because Mr. Makoya or whoever might be the short steward in New Era. But the point I'm trying to make is that through strategies and tactics, we also learn that we need to live to find another day. Because as you grow, and particularly in the position where you stand, that we're now governing, we're now preparing to lead all our people. So you need to learn certain things to say, Those that think that we must be shouting, we must represent them. But the deaf, who can also not hear the sound of those that are shouting, we also represent them. The old people will also represent them. The bishop and the preacher can also represent them. The Muslims will also represent them. The serious professionals who just want things to run smooth will also represent them. So the further you go in growth, in maturity, you also start assuming serious responsibility. And when you start looking back at those small little fights there, you realize to say that those things are not even worth you spending time talking about it, because you have to lead the country. I must prepare myself to be engaging with Ramaphosa and saying, man, Ramaphosa, what is happening? We're having a lot of trucks that are coming on our road. We are the largest partner to Namibia. Your trucks are many on our roads, and this is the impact. So I must be preparing myself to engage with Ramaphosa now. I must be preparing myself to be engaged with the 35-year-old president, my counterpart in Burkina Faso that just took over with the same thing in Mali. I must be preparing myself to be engaging with Canel in Cuba. I must be preparing myself to engage with Biden. And I must be preparing to engage with myself with Putin. And if preparing to discuss issues of Ukraine, preparing issues of the reform of United Nations Security Council and all those things. And you see, as you grow, you start thinking about building credible institutions. And building credible institution, of which AI is also one of them, it requires a different imagination, it requires a mature approach, it requires you to also sometimes just allow people to be and say whatever it is that they want to.
Okay, now let's talk about the issue of the red line. Of course, you were in court fighting for its removal, but are you getting the necessary support, especially from these people that you are fighting for, particularly those both of the red line?
So, well, what is basically happening is that I've learned through my years of activism, that's why I'm also taking up the presidency, is that if you are committing yourself to fight for people, you must also commit to fight for people in their awareness, but also in their ignorance. Yeah? So, even if they don't support you, if you are committing yourself to fight for them, when they are aware and we are not even aware. You might, it's like you are having a child and you are carrying the child in your back, and the child sometimes bites you. And it's for their own good, because they can't walk. You leave them there, they will starve, so you need to carry them in your back. So that's one of the things that I've learned, that when you are fighting for people, including the red line, you mustn't fight for people only if they are going to support you in exchange. That's how people get fatigued and they get tired and they say people are no longer coming because you don't do it for them. But what if they are manipulated? Sometimes people, you go to prison and you say, I want to free you from prison, and the person just decides to say, no, I want to be in prison. There will be those people who will be deciding to do that. But our approach to this case is that we actually want this case to go on trial. The white monopoly capital, as represented by Midboard, Namibia, so-called Namibia Agricultural Union, Namibia Agricultural Union, and these guys are owned Fly Namibia, the one that benefited from the liquidation of Air Namibia, and that whole group, they don't want the case to go on trial. Our strategy when we're going to go on trial, are going to testify, but we're also going to call witnesses. We're going to be calling those witnesses, traditional leaders, to come and testify at that time when the stage is set. Because at the current stage, we want them to tell the court their story about their suffering, from the traditional leaders, from the communities, from the youth, from graduates of agriculture. So we are preparing for the actual showdown. And they don't want the actual showdown to come. Because you could see the government is also trying to say, no, this case has been politicized and all those other things. And all this, no, it's somebody else. I decide, I'm not there as the air movement, I'm there as Job Amupanda. If I lose the case, they are not going to come for the assets of the air movement. They are going to come for the assets of my family and my children. So I'm the one who's there on fire. It's Job Amupanda against government, against the Ministry of Attorney General, and all those guys. Maybe there are about 10 applicants. I'm the only one on the side of the people of Namibia. Government is on the side of the red line, the minister on the side of the red line, the Attorney General will decide of course, on instruction of the President. Yeah. So, but you could see that it's just out of shame. Again, speaks to the witnesses and the pride of old people who simply just supposed to come and say, okay, let's settle this thing out of court. We are going to remove it in December, or we are going to do this, and we made it an order of court. But I've reached a stage where I'm no longer interested in settlement. This thing must just go all the way. But we are also saying, we are placing Namibians in comfort that if we lose this case, and we are confident we won't lose this case. If we lose this case, we will remove it it will be removed on the 22nd of March 2025. In fact, in my acceptance speech, I can already guarantee one of the lines that is already there is the red line. Now I'll be speaking as president. So in my inauguration, I will already be announcing and saying, I'm going to be appointing the minister, and one of his first key tasks is to remove the red line. I'll be already making that announcement in my acceptance speech as president. So what has happened as far as the red line, we are just in a better position now that if we lose it, and we don't think we're going to lose it, we've been winning a lot of battles. They wanted me to pay their so-called protective costs, and the judge dismissed them on that thing. So they are going to appeal to the Supreme Court and all those things that they want to do. So, but we are actually in a better position now to find. So our people, once the case starts, once I'm starting testifying in court, that's the stage where we are going to then appealing to people for help. But I know my lawyer has put out a notice to say, because we need to do research, we need to do a lot of things, we don't have a lot of money, others that have a lot of money. But my lawyer put out a notice to say those who want to help, they must please do and assist the case. The account number, it's not my account number, it's the account of the lawyer, the legal practitioners. So, but we are good with that case, and we are confident that we're going to definitely.
Okay, now assuming you assume the role of president in 2025, one of the things that you have to deal with, of course, is the issue of the oil, the nitrogen, which is also out there, some of those economic opportunities that would really propel the country out of the dangers of poverty. But what is your approach to this?
You see, for some reason, this actually shocked me is that there is what is called, in the American system, for instance, what is called the military industrial complex. So where you actually need to understand certain economic activities and their impact on safety and security of the country. Now, as a head of state, those are clear questions because you are the primary repository, the guardian of national security as a principal foreign policy maker. Now, just imagine if we wake up and there's no fuel in our country. There's just no fuel. That's the core of why institutions such as NAMCO, for instance, has been created. To say that you cannot just allow the private sector and so-called this guy to be supplying fuel because it means your defense will not have oil if somebody decides. It means your ambulances. It means your police vehicle will not have fuel. If these guys, remember there was this threat by service station owners to say that they were going to go on strike. What if they would have gone ahead with their threats? So I'm giving you this preface also just to say that, look, my approach to oil and gas and all these resources, I will approach them from the national security and national interest perspective. So you put that color and flavor to say, this things of oil is about national interest and national security. That's where the issue of economic development. Now economic development is elevated there and it's just hanging in the air. And it's also apparently the cornerstone of our foreign policy. No. You have to elevate and put national interest and articulate it and conceptualize it better, under which you put economic development as one of the pillars of national interest. So you will then also have to do certain intervention and say, in the name of national interest and national security, we need to renegotiate this. In fact, if I was president, I would also be able to say that, look, the reason why all these things, can you imagine these things of NAMCO and the oil has been ongoing left, right, center. Not a single statement by the president. Not a single statement by the prime minister.
But the president argues that he believes in our strong institutions, processes, systems.
So if we have war and hunger, if the country is disintegrating, not just imagine, it's like a father. Look at this, the household. Your father believes in you. You just decide that your lunch is at 10 o'clock. Then another person decides that their lunch is at 3 o'clock. All of you are cooking. But you as a father, I believe in what is this thing? The agency of institution. If the institution are posing a danger to national security, I think they must function on their own. That's a weak leader. What I'm saying is that
what if his argument is he has not reached a level where the president is required to intervene?
The issue of oil.
The issue of NAMCO, for example, you picked out NAMCO. The NAMCO has always been in the news for all the wrong reasons. There's a lot of things that are questionable in NAMCO. Even the fact that there's the appointment of a second CEO who's demanding 300,000. We could be paying for the next 6 months 2 executives, half a million.
Okay.
Of course.
Now let's assume these things. I want to give you a context. Take the NAMCO situation and take a condom tender situation. And just compare those two. What actually has happened on a condom tender? Condom tender, there is practically nothing illegal has happened. It's a question of morality. You put out a tender, people apply for it, and they won those tenders. Right? Including Fabu Farm, including Shapa, and all those other people that they're talking about. President released a statement. The ruling party released a statement. In fact, they actually had a Politburo meeting to discuss. Let's compare. Compare the CPB and a tender. The condom tender compared to NAMCO. This one raises the serious issues of corporate governance. In this thing, people are talking about Shapa. Of course, who's my friend, I must say, I'm not involved in his business, but he's my friend. People are talking about Shapa, and no one has raised issues whether Shapa has done it in a corrupt way, or all these guys that have gotten all these tenders and things like that. But here, it's a president had gotten a $1 billion tender as part of the team, even by their own vision and admission. So which one, Edward, between those two, which one deserved attention? President had not said anything.
No.
Like, that's what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. Of course.
Why would the president speak on a tender and speak on government?
What did the president say about the tender? I think his position was very clear to say, no, I'm not involved.
Exactly.
Let the systems and processes handle the tender issue.
Let them hear him saying the same thing about NAMCO.
Yeah, and then there was also political pressure for him to pronounce himself.
That's the point.
From the leader of the official opposition was
also he succumbed. Okay, so he succumbed to pressure.
No, I'm not saying I can't speak on his behalf.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that people were saying, no, you reacted when the Josiah Motako airport tender interviewed the president.
Yes.
And eventually it was proven that you were right, the president, to step in because the tender was inflated. React now as well. Because you already said that, president.
Because I can.
And then legally it was proven that no, the act had been amended. The president has no powers to actually.
I can put it to you. The reason why the president is quiet of this thing is not because, and I put it out there in public because, look, I had written to the minister and said, commission a special investigation of NAMCO. Because I was already aware that people were fighting. The minister refused to do that. Okay? Now, I put it to you, the only reason the president is not intervening is because one of those guys, one of the factions, has people that are connected to State House. What is he going to say? That's why I put it to you that, I mean, when you hear this oil and green hydrogen, look, NAMCO want to give some guys 500, the guys that are asking for 500 million now, they're thinking that today's newspaper also, as 500 million from government. Those same guys are the ones that are getting an exclusive agreement on this green hydrogen. But what if I want to do green hydrogen also as an Indian? When did NAMCO advertise those things? So you can't get the situation because remember when we are talking about the oil storage, tender that was inflated and negotiated $1 billion. Who did it involve that transaction? So I'm not surprised. But all I'm saying, the point I'm trying to make is that when you are, NAMCO is not new era. NAMCO is not Namibia Art Gallery. Of course, those institutions are also important. NAMCO is a very important strategic institution that need to be approached from the perspective of national security.
Calling for the president?
No, not necessarily. I'm saying you ask a question.
You
You ask a question, what would be my approach to these things of oil and gas and green hydrogen? And my answer to that, I would approach it, I would actually put economic development under the cover of two things, national security and national interest. To be able to conceptualize it and say, because national interest is almost like when you declare a state of disaster, it allows you to do certain things. But if you have an approach of approaching something from national security perspective, that's what I'm just saying. Even the security of this country ought to be concerned about 27 in NAMCO. We have been told, in the media has also been uncritical about these things, how they have been mobilized by these politicians. Everyone says there was some prior agreement that was signed by Qatar versions, Qatar Energy with NAMCO. It was signed previously. Now the minister, again, you see, when Mulunga was signing that agreement, Tom Alwendo was standing behind Mulunga. And that other guy was standing behind all those things. They signed the first agreement. In respectable mutual bilateral engagement, you say, we sign this in your country, and then you come back. You know, like that. In the second round of when we treat each other as equals. Then, just on the 16th or 17th or so, Tom Alwendo went back again to sign an agreement in those black books. So the media is actually reporting and saying, this agreement is going to do all those things, but they've never seen that agreement. The agreement is still in those black books. I'm told that in the Middle East, if something is in the black book, it's not supposed to be disclosed to the public. So it's amazing. I think it was the brief, the brief and we will observe also.
Amupanda, we've exhausted the NAMCO oil approach to that. But now, let's again the question of water empathy. You highlighted in the interview, but what can be done? What role do political parties, civil society organizations, the media, the ECN itself, what role can they play to really make participation, especially in the electoral process, which is actually one of the most crucial parts in the political ecosystem, because that's where decisions are made. That's where critical decisions are made. So what can be done?
I don't think we take politics seriously in our country.
To take politics, especially.
Yes, I don't think we take politics seriously. And because we don't take politics seriously, we allow institutions that are supposed to administer our affairs to get away with murder. For instance, can you explain to me what does this ban? They say if you are a civil servant or working for SOEs, you must resign. Now, Article 17 of the Namibian Constitution says that you get right to political activity. And then you can exercise that right directly or through free elected representatives. That right is not qualified in a sense to say, but you can only, there's inequality in terms of rights. Now, as we speak, just to speculate, just to contest, you must resign your job as a journalist in New Era, or as a government employee. But the private person, so in other words, you have an act, an electoral act that says, this, we're talking about this thing that they have, about the list for the National Assembly. It actually says only people from the private sector and the unemployed should exercise their Article 17 rights. Right? But the political parties and the government and everyone, even the people who are affected, no single president going to court to challenge this. So one of the first things that the air movement is doing is to say that everybody have Article 17 right, they must participate if they are above 21, they must participate and they must not be inhibited because of employment status. You can't have this discriminatory thing. One of the first things, in fact, I've already, one of the first things that Kabetu, to our head of legal, is under clear instruction to challenge two provisions. One is that provision that prohibits government employees to be on the list to contest for parliament. In South Africa, independent candidates have actually been allowed to run for president and also to run for parliament. You just wake up and want to be an MP. You don't have to be a member of a political party. So we've told Kabetu clearly, because he's one of our brilliant legal minds that we have, that he must go, even in his individual capacity, because he has intention to lead this country. And I actually believe he's one of the best leaders that we could find. We get very angry if we need to be angry, but one of those young people of the air movement that we are proud of, that many people don't see. So he is going to bring an application in his personal capacity, supported also by the air movement, to also say it is unconstitutional to request people to resign from their job in order just for them to be on the list of the National Assembly. So that's one of the provisions that we have to challenge. The other provision is continuous voters registration. So every day when you wake up, you must, just like if you lose your ID, you go to the Home Affairs and you get a new ID, isn't it? You lose your passport, you do the same. You lose everything. Why should the voters card be special? So you must register to vote at any time that you want. At least what they can do is that they can even maybe just cut off for the process of preparation to say you can register any time, but 6 months before for their logistical plans. You whatever it is that the case may be. So those are the first legal things that we need to clear. But another issue that we also need to be able to do, we will not win election on election day. We will win election by making sure that many young men and women with talent and energy are registered to go and vote. We must put targets. Yeah? Get the necessary data from Home Affairs. Who are these people that we get? Of course, fortunately, we are having what is it? The census now. But unfortunately, it takes longer in this rich country and rich economy. It takes longer for them to announce their stuff. We ought to know how many people we have in the country who are 18 and above. ECN must actually be in schools. At every institution of higher learning, the institution of higher learning must write to ECN and say, we want to have a provision. ECN must also make provision to say that they must allow for organized voter registration. So in other words, if I'm a church group and I want to make appointment for the group of people to come and register for a particular time, they must also allow for vote. So we must be able to engage with ECN and say, so that they can become flexible. We must analyze why is it that people don't register to go and vote. So we are going to go all out with resources if need be to ensure we are targeting 500,000 new voters. Our voters are not those people who are already on the voters roll. We thank those who are already on the voters roll who are going to vote for us. Many young men, we want to be, whether they are going to vote for us or not, our target is to ensure that this voters registration process, whatever form and shape, by the time when the voters register roll is released, we want there to be 500,000 people, young people who are deciding their future. Because currently, it's an 8-year-old. All of them there, when you just look at the voters roll, all of them just all those people who are dominating that voters roll, then that's one of the things that we really need to do a lot of work. We'll also be knocking on doors of employers to give their employees leave. We'll probably ask the Prime Minister will do employers out of the goodwill also to release civil servants to say, at least on this day, let's just have a day when people are off to go and register to go and vote. It's the most important thing that we will do this. We will be encouraging those employers that are going to be assisting our people. So we need to roll out a strategy, a clear strategy, not a partisan strategy. This strategy shouldn't be because we want people to go and vote for Job to be president and they are going to vote for Job to be president. But at that moment, as Namibians, we must just mobilize everyone else so that at least the decision, whoever is going to be president, whoever going to be a member of parliament, is a decision that is taken by the majority of Namibians. Of course, it's going to be fun We must roll out all programs. We must go out and make sure. We must take the statistics and say, in this village, in this community, how many people are there? This is the number. How many of them are in the current voters register? This is the number. In this constituency and things like that. So we have to do a lot of things. And unfortunately, people think we must wait for the election. I don't think we must wait for the election. We must wait very hard on voters registration.
Okay. And last one, I just remembered now that you mentioned that this Shapa business guy is a friend of yours. There's maybe a question that readers would want to hear is he financing your campaign?
So in fact,
because it's also one of the speculations.
I have a lot of friends that are business people. So I haven't spoken to Chapa in a long time, but I don't want to disturb him now. So he's not involved a lot, so I want him to work hard. I know he's working hard. So I'm going to go to him for bigger things. So currently we are not engaged with Chapa. Many young people who are in business, some of them are having fishing quarters, some of them are in transportation and all those things. So Chapa is not involved now, but I'm reserving him for bigger things. I want you to Chapa, if you are listening, I'm coming to you.
Thank you very much.
So once he does it, then I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him as a young person. Many other things that he does. He's also in farming and things like this. He's been inviting me to go check out his farm, but I just never got time. So I'm reserving him. He's not funding anything. I'm reserving him for bigger things.
Thank you very much for that. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks a lot.
And this brings us to the end of another brilliant edition of On the Spot. Until we meet again, it's bye-bye.